Welcome back, everyone. I'm Severino, your personal business coach. And today I'm gonna make you some money and save you some time because I have spent personally 400 hours researching this. 400 hours went into reading 20 books. And when I say reading, some of them were audio books that I was listening to in the sauna or in my morning run. But then actually, the good ones, the top 10, I bought also in paperback and I read them another time so that I could extract the top learnings for you guys. So out of those 400 hours that I've spent reading 20 books or listening to 20 books and then reading them, I've selected for you the 10 time wasters and the 10 money makers so that you who are busy building your business, building a life that is paid by the business that you are building, you don't have to waste that time. I wasted it for you. I will give you the insights immediately. So if you're listening to this on a podcast, later on, just make a screenshot from YouTube and you will have the top 10 and the money wasters directly in front of you. And let's jump into it. The 10 time wasters and the 10 money makers. You know what's interesting? Some of the time wasters, they are absolutely hyped by all influencers out there on Twitter, on YouTube right now. And we will debunk those myths because actually after I went into the details and read them, they turn out not to be that great. So let's go. Let's start with the first one, which is absolutely hyped out there. Everybody will tell you that Morgan Housel is a genius, that his book, The Psychology of Money, is wonderful, and that they have had a ton of benefits reading it and applying it. Now, let me debunk this because yes, the book is amazing. Absolutely. It's a great book. But it's not a moneymaker. It's a time waster. Why? Because after listening to the whole book, you will have no idea what to buy. Absolutely no idea. And you will also have no idea when to sell. So I went ahead because I actually like Morgan Housel. I went even deeper and heard more interviews with him and then checked how his current portfolio is. And he admitted in those interviews that he is a terrible investor himself. He's really good at writing. That's why he's an amazing blogger, probably one of the best investment writers out there. Kudos to him for writing in an absolute amazing way. But if you read the whole book, after it, you will not know how to select your portfolio, how to do an overall design of your portfolio, how to select the single assets, when to buy and when to sell. And those are the minimum things that you need to learn. So Psychology of Money goes into the time wasting category. And then there is his next book, which is, again, incredibly well written because that's what he can do. His superpower is really writing books. So his next book after Psychology of Money is called... It's about the things that never change, same as ever. And I have to say, I have applied something from that book. And it was some assets that I would not have bought without reading that book because he reminded me of one core activity that is doing nothing. And he reminded me that human behavior is always the same. So even if we are looking at something completely new like NFTs or smart contracts on a blockchain, you can rely on some things that are same as ever because in the end the markets are made of people and people have behaviors that are same as ever. So actually that idea is amazing. If you read the whole book, you still don't know where to start as an investor. So if you like wasting time with books, I enjoyed wasting time there, but it's not a great book. Let's go to the side of the real money makers. This one, capital returns, is actually a money maker, and you will not find any influencer talking about this. So this book goes the other way around. While most books talk about the growth opportunity and how to assess growth, so that means the demand side, this book comes at investing from the supply side. Because what if we just focus on supply, limited supply or scarce supply? Because supply is in our control. We can measure supply. In assets that have finite supply or scarce supply, we can measure it and we can calculate accordingly. The demand side is actually not in our control. We can only estimate forward, but it's hallucinating. It's only putting up assumptions. We don't know how much Bitcoin will grow in demand, but we know the supply side. So if you know the supply side, you are actually controlling the controllables, versus if you focus on the growth side, like most investors do, you are betting on something that is not in your control and can change anytime. And another great surprise was The Intelligent Investor, because this is the most hyped book on the planet by another generation. So the current generation is hyping Morgan Housel, and the past generation, their fathers, were hyping The Intelligent Investors. Why? Because this was the actual mentor of Warren Buffett. And if you ask Warren Buffett what's the best book to buy, he will say one book and 3 chapters of another book. The one chapter that he says is the whole book is The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham, because this was the teacher of all value investing investors. And the other book is Competitive Advantage by Michael Porter, but he will say just to read the first 3 chapters. And I agree on that. Now, The Intelligent Investor is such a time waster because it doesn't apply. You can read the whole book. First, it's absolutely boring. As opposed to Morgan Housel, who is an amazing storyteller, Benjamin Graham is not. And so the book is boring, and everything that you find in there is not applicable to today's market. So forget The Intelligent Investor. It's a terrible pick, especially for beginning investors, and you just can skip it and you have lost nothing. Next book that really gave me zero edge and zero additional insight in how to design my portfolio, when to buy, how to pick an asset, when to buy it, when to sell it, was The Little Book That Beats the Market by Joel Greenberg. And another total time waster was, and I was really surprised by this because I love Howard Marks. Every interview that I watch with him, I think, oh my God, this guy is a genius. And then I read the book, and the book did basically give zero alpha. Zero. Also, somebody who is an incredible smart person and an amazing teacher, that's Monish Pabrai. Incredible teacher, but the book didn't give much. And especially if you look at the last quarterly moves, he is not applying the principles in the book, and he's jumping around from category to category, and he's not holding assets long enough to be able to win out there. And so if you are not applying it yourself, there must be something going on there, maybe with the method. But yeah, I'm moving on. And I'm moving on to some that are really, really good. My favorite, Peter Lynch, Beating the Street. My second favorite, Peter Lynch, One Up on Wall Street. And the one that I think everybody should start with if you are a beginner investor, it's Learn to Earn. So Peter Lynch actually makes it in the top 10 3 times with Beating the Street, with One Up on Wall Street, and with Learn to Earn. That's a beginner's guide. But all the 3 are amazing. And you know, the beginner's guide is actually not so much for beginners because it's a really good revisit of the foundations. And pros, they revisit the foundations. If you think of an absolute pro basketball player, they revisit how they hold the ball, how they shoot, how they stand, how they use their legs. And you know, using your legs is nothing advanced. It's so basic. You use your legs all the time. But real pros, they go back to the foundations. So, next book that I want to absolutely recommend is The Sales Acceleration Formula. Now you might say, Simon, but that's not about investing. Well, it is, because you need something to invest. You need cash in the first place so that you can buy your first assets. And you will never have 36% of your monthly income to invest into assets if you don't learn sales. That's why there are 3 books here that are not in the investing category, but without them, it will be much harder to succeed. The Sales Acceleration Formula is really the best book if you want to understand the process of sales, and specifically the handover from marketing to sales and how to coach sales teams. Strategy Sprints, which is my own book by Simon Severino, will teach you how to really make it a system. So it's the marketing system, the sales system, and the operations systems that you need in order to run a business in the digital age. And Good Strategy, Bad Strategy is an amazing book if you want to understand management teams, and specifically the difference between a management team that has a plan to win and a management team that does have no plan. Because in the end, when you're buying an asset, you are buying a company. And so if you want to understand a company that can win versus one that cannot win, Richard Rumelt, Good Strategy, Bad Strategy is a very good book. Let's go to the next loser, which is The Big Leap. I absolutely enjoy this book and I give it to people who are sabotaging themselves. But most investors, they're actually good at making good decisions and making money. But if you have a friend and you see them struggling because they are basically sabotaging themselves, they know what to do, but they don't do it consistently, then give them The Big Leap, because The Big Leap is really about the mindset of winning and how sometimes we sabotage our own winning from the inside. Next book, which is actually a good book, but you will know nothing about how to design your portfolio, how to pick the assets, when to enter an asset, when to exit an asset, is Richer, Wiser, Happier. But I have to say that this book almost made it to the top 10 because it's actually a very good book. And also, The Snowball, but by Warren Buffett, is actually quite a nice book. It was over 20 hours of listening it during the sauna. And I'm a huge Warren Buffett fan, so I enjoyed it. But more like you would enjoy watching Netflix if you're into that. It's really very detailed about his life and how he conducted his work and his life. And I'm a huge fan. And I consider him one of my mentors, even if I never met him, because of how many hours I have spent studying his way of deciding, of working, of structuring the day. And I even structure my day in a very similar way to him after having read those things. Let's go to some winners. The winner in this category is Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits by Philip Fisher. It's really good. And it's applicable. This is something that after you read it, you can actually apply it. Then I will tell you about a book that you probably have never heard of. It's called The Man Who Planted Trees. And I would put it in the 10 money makers, even if it's just a novel. It's a very short novel by Jean Jono. And it's just about planting trees. But it is very short. And it will remind you of the most important thing, that in order to have compounding effects, you will have to hold those things long enough. The same length that is needed for a tree to grow, that's the amount of time that you have to calculate for a portfolio to create compounding effects. And one book that ended up being a loser, but it's actually a pretty good book, is Poor Charlie's Almanac, which is everything Charlie Munger. Actually a pretty good book, but after it you don't know what to do. It's life advice for every age, and both Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett are absolutely heroes for me on how they have conducted their life. They have lived a sprint life. Every single day of their life they were doing what they want to do on their own terms, in their way, and they were extremely successful and have influenced hundreds of thousands of people. The winner, this is my top pick for this year. I've listened to this twice in the sauna because it's so good. It's Christopher Meyer, 100 Beggars. He mostly puts together wisdom that is very old, but also proven and back-tested. And it's about how to pick the right assets and to hold them long enough so that they can compound and become 100 Beggars. I hope you like this. Make a screenshot, spend some time with the top 10 books, and let me know which book you would like to hear about next. I'm happy to continue with that one. Keep rolling, everyone.